right, welcome back. I know our guest is on, via Skype. Is it Skype or vMix rather? Hey, good morning to Dr. Faith B.Yisrael. Good morning, my dear.
Good morning, Brother B. Good morning, Tobago. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
All right, welcome as usual. And of course, we just want to get straight into this. Just differentiate the difference between isolation and quarantine.
Yes, this is absolutely critical for us to understand. Isolation is what we do with sick patients. So if there is somebody who we know has the virus, we want to keep those people separate from other people who do not have the virus. So that is isolation. That is what you do with sick people. Mm-hmm. Quarantining, though, is what we do with people who are well, meaning they are not showing any signs and symptoms, but we know that they have been exposed, either because they have actually come into direct contact with somebody who is confirmed, or because they've been in a space with people who have been confirmed. So like in an airplane or in an area where we know people are sick.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we've had the first case in Tobago, and that person had to be transported to Trinidad, obviously, for the necessary requirement in terms of the treatment and so on. Let's talk about the Tobago scenario, given that we have an entire plane, entire flight were taken into isolation and quarantine. Let's speak to that as to the difference that they have to undergo in their treatment leading towards maybe their recovery.
Okay, so this is absolutely critical. We have had people coming into Trinidad and Tobago, and I think the minister said yesterday almost 20,000 people have been coming into Trinidad and Tobago, and some of those people have been coming to Tobago over the last couple of weeks. I personally know people who have been coming in, and what they've done is told them that they need to self-isolate. So we have two groups, self-quarantine. We have two groups of people who are in quarantine in Tobago right now. We have those who are in the state-sponsored quarantine facilities, and we have those who are self-quarantining at home. They are in their home. They should be staying by themselves. They should be sleeping in their own rooms. They should not really be mingled with anybody else in their family, even at home.
Yeah. Okay. So, and these people who are, they have announced where they are staying and all of that. From that standpoint, do you think, of course the media has to do its job, the people have to be informed, but the location, obviously Tobago is a small place, and just from that perspective as to, obviously there's going to be a stigma attached to the place and people who may be interacting with that, and then there can be further panic. Just speak to that from a perspective of our own safety. Do you think it was the best type of, media work?
So there is no reason for a place like this to be secretive, because we all need to know that this is happening, and we all need to know that we need to take precautions. Now, knowing the location of the quarantine space does not mean that you are going to stigmatize the people who are there. It means that we have to be very careful, and it means that all of Tobago, I am hoping, as a matter of fact, Tobago right now has brought it home, and everything that we have been saying for the last 2-3 weeks, meaning you need to keep washing your hands, you need to practice social distancing and so forth, that needs to be in the back of your head, in the front of your head, all around, so that you do what you need to do to protect yourself and your families from getting infected. But identifying the location, because in some instances, the families of these people have been trying to get to give them care packages and so forth. So knowing where the location isn't an issue. This is something that is a pandemic. It is worldwide. It is hitting all of us, and we need to embrace everyone who is affected by this, because it is those people today, but it could be you tomorrow.
So let's talk about individuals. I mentioned this before, and it's important that we do, because it's very difficult to differentiate the common cold from COVID-19 because they all have flu-like symptoms. I want to go there again because the last time we had that conversation, somebody said, Brother B, I wish there was more explanation on this particular case. Let's say that you have a flu, and normally a flu would last with you maybe a week thereabout, and you are not sure whether it is COVID, whether it is swine flu, what is it, whichever. What do you do when you have a flu? And I asked earlier the same question more or less. What do you have a flu when you're not sure what it is, and you may have come into contact with someone who has traveled in a taxi or wherever? You may have come into contact unawares, but you're coming down with the flu. What do you do from that standpoint?
So the first thing you do is ensure that you keep yourself by yourself, meaning stay home. If you normally will go into work, you need to stay home from now. Then the next thing we are telling you to do is to call the health centers or the hospital or in Tobago 211 and speak with the health professional and tell them your signs and symptoms. Based on your signs and symptoms, they will then advise on whether you need to be tested for COVID-19 or whether you need to stay home and just recuperate because you may just have a flu or a cold. It's important to note, though, that in other jurisdictions, because they also have limitations on testing kits, even people who have COVID-19 symptoms, they have been telling them to stay home, particularly if the symptoms are very mild. They have been telling them to stay home and recuperate at home because that is what they need to do at the time. And some of those people may not even be tested. We are not at that point necessarily here. We are telling you to call the numbers, speak to the health professionals, and let the health professionals make that call about whether you should be tested or not.
And most notably, the symptoms for COVID-19, headache, fever, and chest pains. Sometimes in a regular flu or you have the cold, you do exhibit those symptoms as well. What do you do in the case that you are not sure? In this case, and particularly if you have a headache, fever, and you know you didn't come into contact, do you still need to go and have yourself checked?
You need to call. Remember, what we're saying is you need to call. Right. Don't go into any health facility. Okay. You need to call the numbers. And yes, so we're looking particularly. Remember, COVID-19 does one thing that is serious, that causes people to die. It affects your lungs and it causes you not to be able to breathe. So shortness of breath is a critical symptom that we need to take into consideration. If you're having shortness of breath, certainly you absolutely need to call. What we've been hearing is that people who have asthma, for example, are thinking, well, my shortness of breath is just as a result of my asthma. And we're telling you, don't take that risk. As long as you have shortness of breath with these other flu-like symptoms, then definitely call in. Because since you have asthma, you might actually be one of those people who are more at risk to having severe symptoms. So don't take the risk. Call the numbers, let the health professional guide you through, tell them about whether you've traveled or not, tell them about whether you've been social distancing. If you have been home all by yourself for the last 2 or 3 weeks, then maybe you are fine. You need to tell them that so that they can help determine your risk.
After the 14 days of self-quarantining, or, well, you isolate yourself given that you have this flu and so on. Let's say 14 days has passed and you have not been improving, and you self-medicate, you boil a trumpet bush, and push that you believe that you can cure yourself, because there are those people who believe that I can cure this. Let's deal with that. So let's say that 14 days has passed and there's no improvement. In fact, it got worse. When does the authorities, and the call was made by maybe a neighbor or friend and said, but you really need serious and professional help. And I'm going to the extreme where somebody just ignore all the advisories and so on. What happens there?
Yeah. Okay, so the 14 days, let's explain what the 14 days is. The 14 days is really the incubation period for COVID-19. What does that mean? The incubation period is the time between when you were exposed to the virus to the time it takes for most people to show signs and symptoms. So the 14 days isn't the amount of time for you to recover. The 14 days is the amount of time that you need to see whether you are showing signs and symptoms for COVID-19. So let's be clear about that. For some people, they show the first set of signs and symptoms happens on day 14, which means they now call in, they now have to go through the entire process. So let's be clear about what those 14 days mean. It doesn't mean you're going to get better. Now, there are some people who they got infected and they got signs and symptoms within 2 or 3 days after getting infected. They may be having mild signs and symptoms, and they may actually recover within a week or so after they started getting signs and symptoms. It really, really varies across the board for different people. So that 14 days is not when you expect to recover, but it's when they are looking for signs and symptoms. And the idea is, after 14 days, if you have not shown any signs and symptoms, it's most likely, and I'm stressing most likely, that you do not have COVID-19. And I'm stressing most likely because we are seeing some studies coming now showing that even those without signs and symptoms, when they test them, shows that they actually did have the virus inside of them.
Wow.
There's about a 20% or so that they're showing in different categories, different groups of people who, even though they have shown no signs and symptoms, actually have the virus in them. And that is actually normal for how viruses work. This is not anything different for COVID-19 versus swine flu or anything like that. Normally, there are people who come into contact with a virus, and because their immune system is really, really strong, they're able to fight it off. There are other people who come in contact and they get every fresh cold that pass. Wow. So that is just the way these things work. That is why we are telling everybody, Brother B, I need us to stress this. This social distancing that we're telling you to do, this is critical, because even though you may be one of those people who have very mild symptoms, or you may be even one of those people who are not showing any signs and symptoms, you may still be able to pass it on to somebody else who would have a very severe response to it. And that is the part that we are most concerned about, because the people who have very severe responses are going to be our grandparents and so forth. But let's not be fooled with that. We have been saying that the people who are most at risk for having severe signs and symptoms and even death are older people. But that does not mean that young people don't get severe signs and symptoms and have not been dying. Young people have been getting signs and symptoms very severe and have been dying from COVID-19. It's just that their numbers are much smaller compared to the older people over 60 who have comorbidities.
Wow. And you know, so those people who do not show signs and symptoms and do have the disease would be referred to as healthy carriers, as we would have used that labeling in the past with HIV?
I don't know that we are using that term right now. It's just a part of the how the virus works. Yeah. That is not a term that has been officially used by the WHO or any of the other official agencies. So I would wait until they make a pronouncement on that. Because as I said, many of these reports are new reports that are now coming out, and we are now trying to grapple with what they mean. Okay. I want to say something in particular though. We've been speaking to people who are in self-quarantine, telling you to stay in your room by yourself. Use your own bathroom if possible. Do not interact with people inside your home, particularly if you have grandparents and so forth in your home. Don't interact with them. I need to send a warning, though, to those who are in the state-sponsored quarantine spaces, that is not an opportunity for you to lime. It's not an opportunity for you to make new friends. It's not an opportunity for you to socialize. Because I've actually been getting some reports from the state quarantine facilities in Trinidad and in Tobago that people have not been adhering to the requirements to still keep your social distance. Because remember, you are in a state-sponsored quarantine facility because you have an even higher risk of having COVID-19. And there may be 1 or 2 people in that facility who have it. And because you are now socializing with them, because you are now not taking heed to the advice, you can be in the quarantine facility and get COVID-19 when you came into it free from COVID-19. So we're really, really begging everyone, as long as you have just come into the country, please take the quarantining requirements seriously. Tobago is not in a position where we can treat with this if this gets out of hand. And that is what we are trying to get people to understand. If this gets out of hand, crapo smoke with hype. So we need to batten this down. We need to ensure that this does not get out of hand in Tobago. And I would say also, we are now relying critically on Trinidad keeping it under wraps. Because if you recognize everybody who you've asked about this in Tobago, they say that our positive cases will be sent to Trinidad. That works fine now. That is fine now. But what happens if Trinidad gets out of hand and Trinidad suddenly now has 400 or 500 cases that they have to hospitalize? It means they would not have space for the Tobago cases if we have. So we have to be absolutely careful. We have to be critical. We have to really, really take this seriously. This is not a time to play. This is not a time to think. Let's even look at this. Because China, even though China was late in starting their response, and we know that they kind of hid it initially and so forth, China battened down and they were self-isolating, they were self-quarantining, they were social distancing, they were doing everything for a couple weeks, and now China is reporting that they are, I think 2 or 3 days now, have not had any new confirmed cases. We now have a situation in Italy where the number of people who have died from COVID-19 has surpassed, in Italy, has surpassed the number of people who've died from COVID-19 in China, because in Italy, they did not batten down. Tobago, we have an opportunity now to show that we are responsible adults who can take instructions, and we don't need the government to beat us over our heads with anything. We don't need the Prime Minister to slap us. Let us take this seriously. If you don't have to go anywhere, stay home. You could not lime. Think about it. I know it's hard to not lime for a couple weeks, but the same people you are liming with now, if you don't stop it now, they can be dead in a couple weeks if we don't take this seriously.
Let's we go break, and when we come back, we take some questions from the public. Stay right there, Dr. Faith, and we will respond to some of the questions from the public. See you after the break.
When you need electronics, find what you want quickly at Ted Electronics. We have tons of brand name items in smartphones, tablets, LCD and smart TVs, headphones, and speakers. For the best in electronics, check TED. Amazing service and the lowest prices guaranteed. Located upstairs Moosehead Plaza, Bethany Road, Tobago. TED Electronics, your ideal choice for electronics.
Interested in finding a safe, healthy, and fast way to lose weight? Tired of those yo-yo diets where you lose weight today but gain it back tomorrow? Are you frustrated with your exercise program because despite how hard you work, the weight just won't go? If you answered yes to those questions, you need Singular. Singular's nutritional systems can help to slim you down to a healthier you. A premium weight loss system offering meal replacement shakes, fat burners, detoxifiers, appetite suppressants, and sleep regulating supplements. They provide the support you need each day while you pursue your weight loss goals. This is a naturally sourced nutritional system that will help to reshape your body, restore your energy, and improve your health. Our weight loss systems have helped many to tone up and lose inches off their waist. If you have been trying to lose weight but are getting little or no results, try Singular. Our systems are specifically designed for people who have struggled to lose weight. Lose weight? and feel great. Want to know more?
Check us out or call Randy's Back to Eden and Beyond, Canby Main Road, Tobago, 68.
Looking for deckpans? No more trips to Trinidad for deckpans. Richards Hardware is now manufacturing deckpans right here in Tobago. Cut to any length and same-day delivery. We also supply premixed concrete for residential and commercial use. Line pump and boom pump available. Also in stock. Pressure-treated lumber, Bestcrete concrete blocks, hollow clay blocks, BRC, steel, sand, gravel, and all other hardware supply. Corner Milford Road and Orange Hill. Or call us at 310-1289, 635 0169 or 683-8250. We meet all your needs at the lowest prices.
High Five with Christo Gift Senior Council, discussing real issues, political decisions, and economic trends affecting Tobago. High Five Mondays at 8 p.m. only on Tobago Channel 5.
All right, welcome back, and we continue with Dr. Faith. And at this point in time, we take your calls. You can interact with us, ask a question or two. And of course, Dr. Faith, you're there, yes? All right, so...
Yes, I am here.
Very good. So the lines are open, 635-1005 and 635-1412. And of course, you can ask a question. All right. So Doc, while we wait on the calls. So quarantine, of course, there are designated areas in Tobago that people who came in, obviously the borders are closed. From that perspective, you know, just a little feedback. Give me a perspective as to that positioning that the government would have taken. Is it necessary?
Well, this is something that all, well, not all, most other jurisdictions have been doing this because you need to limit the spread of it. COVID-19 is now a pandemic because people have been moving in the world. We now have technology that allows you to go from miles and miles away in a couple of hours via the airplane and the boat, and that is why we have it, because there are people who have actually come in with it. So it is a good measure. It is something that is happening worldwide. It's something that is now normal in communities. Let me say though, somebody on the Facebook Live asked a question about taking sinus medication. And I wanted to answer that because it's important for you, if you have any other comorbidities, any other illnesses that you are treating with, this is the time to keep taking your medication for those other things. If you are diabetic, if you have heart disease, high blood pressure, anything else, HIV in particular, anything else that you have. So if you have sinus issues and all of those, keep taking your medication, because the medication is there to help your body fight the disease that you already have, which means that you would be in a better position if you do come into contact with COVID, with SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19. So if you have any other comorbidity, this is the time for you to ensure that you are taking your medication, doing what you need to do for you to stay as healthy as possible.
All right, so the lines are open, and of course your calls are welcome. 635 for those of you on pulse, 635-1005 and 635-1412. Engage Dr. Faith as we battle this pandemic that is sweeping the world. All right, we do have a caller? No? Yeah. All right. Okay. So, Dr. Faith. All right. So, we obviously children at home. We need to teach them the right way to wash their hands. What can we teach our children as to maintain good hygiene? What else do we need to tell our children?
Well, really, that part is the most critical part. Two things: teaching them how to wash their hands, and we think that children don't listen. They listen. I remember once going to a session with young 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old, and I told them that when they're washing their hands, they need to sing the happy birthday song. And my cousin was one of those, and weeks after, her mother is telling me, when she washes her hands, she's forcing her to sing the happy birthday song. So when you give these messages to children, they do listen. Another thing we have to teach children is how to cough and how to sneeze. Normally the instinct is to cough in your hand, sneeze in your hand, but we need to remind them that you need to cough or sneeze into the crook of your elbow, so that if you then touch something with your hands are not filthy. So those two things are critical right now when we're talking to children, because the reality is we are in cold and flu season generally. A lot of children have fresh cold because this is the season for fresh cold. So because of that, we need to also remind them about how to treat with it normally.
All right, we want to apologize to you and the viewing audience who are trying to get in. Our lines are down, and we do apologize for that. And that should be up and running as soon as, well, tomorrow, hopefully. And so we apologize for that. But meanwhile, Doc, as we're getting ready to close, obviously, this is not, there's no new, well, in the foreseeable future, I guess the Prime Minister is saying we don't know how long we have to, this new lifestyle that we have to adopt overnight as a result of this pandemic. Given that, of course, the liming is out, the socializing is out, staying at home is required, the beaches are closed, Doc. Family and family activities. In some cases, people want to, engage their family in keeping them entertained. What do you advise?
So there are things that you still can do. Remember, social distancing means staying at least 3 to, and I would go to with 6 feet, at least 6 feet away from other people. We have not gotten to the point where the government has told us that we have to stay inside and do nothing. We can still go outside. If, for example, if you are somebody who likes to run in the morning or like to do your walking, you can still do that, but ensure that when you do it, it is done in a way that you remain 6 feet away from the next person at all times. So even if you're running in a group, the group needs to be spaced out and not bunched up together. If we, in terms of timeline, if everyone in Trinidad and Tobago actually bunkers down and does the social distancing correctly, we can see a flattening of the curve, which is what they're talking about in the United States, meaning the number of people who get infected relatively quickly reduces. So we don't have a lot of people getting infected quickly, because as I said before, the risk with that is if we have a lot of people getting infected very quickly, we then have to deal with the people who are in the serious, severe category getting into hospital. Let me give a practical example. If we have 10 people who are infected in Tobago, it's possible that maybe 1 or so of those people would need to be hospitalized. If we just keep it at 10, meaning if everybody does what they should be doing right now and keep it at the number, let's say it is 10, God forbid, then we would be fine. But if everybody stops socializing, if everybody keeps socializing, if everybody keeps lying, if everybody keeps going out when they absolutely don't need to, that number can quickly raise to 1,000. And if we use that number, then we would recognize that we would need probably about 200 people in Tobago who need hospitalization. The hospital in Tobago has 100 beds. So that tells you how critical of a situation we could have. And that is why we are telling people to bunker down, do the social distances, stay home, do things like this. We now have the advantage of technology where we can FaceTime, where we can use this app that Channel 5 is using, where we can WhatsApp call people and so forth. Definitely do that. And please check in with those who you know may be dealing with this, may be harsh with dealing with this. A lot of people are not used to being home and being by themselves, and this might actually be a mental thing for them to deal with. So it's important for you to check up on your friends who may be actually having a hard time. Call them, have them talk to you, let them cry on the phone if that is what is necessary, because they are dealing with how difficult this might be for them.
Excellent. And of course, All right, so Doc, we want to thank you very much. And we thank you for the information and always straight to the point dealing with this issue. And we want to thank you, ma'am. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So at this point in time, we go for a break. When we come back, we continue. We have our guests as we talk fitness during COVID. Yeah. See you after the break.